Welcome to the DIY Guys, the podcast where home renovations, power tools and mild panic go hand in hand. I'm Nick Morris.
And I'm Dan Dower, and each week we'll be chatting with some property pros, some DIY diehards, and hopefully be able to help you with some tips and tricks along the way. Welcome back to the DIY Guys podcast, episode 3. Thank you for everyone sticking with us and coming back. As always, joined by my co-host, Nick. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Very good. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah.
Excited for today?
Very excited, mate. I know you are because it's one of your favourite guests, right?
It is. It's his name's Jaya from Tokyo Llama. I've been following him for years on YouTube. So I've got my own YouTube channel, but he has got like 5 times more followers than me, damn it. But it's such an interesting thing. We'll talk a little bit about it more, but he's got this house in Japan he's bought, and it's awesome. I can't wait to talk to him about the details of it.
Yeah, it just looks incredible, right? And to see something, you know, so culturally different to like what we have here in the UK.
Exactly.
And all the different processes they have. It's a really cool project he's got.
Yeah, surely it's going to be quite difficult as well. I mean, it looks good from what he's doing on YouTube, but he's Australian, but he's been living in England for like 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And he took the plunge and gone into Japan, where his wife's from. So I'm just really interested to see the pitfalls of that, because he's basically started from scratch, isn't he? He's got to find all tradesmen and decide what he's doing. And the house he's gone for is really cool as well. Amazing to see.
But before that, can we get a little update of where you're at with the bungalow?
Yep. So in the last episode, I said about we'll cover a couple of things. The asbestos test came back.
How are we doing?
There's asbestos.
Oh no! Killer.
So there's asbestos in the floor tiles.
Okay.
I don't think that is the world's biggest issue because it's under the carpet currently.
Yeah.
I haven't even got all the carpet up to see if there's floor tiles everywhere yet, but I'm assuming there's at least in maybe 3 rooms. But it's concrete floor anyway, so I can't get under the floor to like run pipes or run cables anyway.
Okay. So
I've just got to look into the best way of dealing with this. If I get it priced to be removed properly, it will literally be, I think, £50-60 per square metre. So I reckon I'm in for a couple of grand.
Yeah.
So I've got to look at a few things, like maybe I could screed over it. I could do some self-leveling thing myself.
Yeah.
I could speak to my flooring guy about the best technique to do that, because then it's gone forever. But you've just got to be wary about spaces where like someone might drill into in the future, for example. It's not really that likely, or just get it dealt with and pay a lot of money that you don't really have to get it removed properly. So that's annoying, but it's not in the Artex. So
amazing.
That's good, because that would be way more annoying, because I'm rewiring it myself. I'm drilling holes for lights and drilling holes to get my switches up, and all my power's running down the wall as well from the loft. So it's going to be at least like 5 holes per room.
Yeah.
At least I don't have to worry about that. Although, as it's Artex and I did a DIY test, this company were brilliant. I'm still going to get a proper graded asbestos mask and just wear it when I'm doing the rewire, just in case, and I wash all my clothes properly. And so, because I gave them 3 samples, I think it was, or 2 samples from 2 different areas. But Artex is like renowned for having like small traces of asbestos. So why not? So I bought these asbestos grade. I have to remember what they were called, like PPP3 or something. Grade masks, and they weren't that much. I think for £30 I got 10 of them. So I'm literally, every time I'm doing a rewire, I think I'm just going to throw it away at the end of the day.
Yeah,
one
exactly.
Of those things, why bother?
Well, it's just worth being a little bit more safe. I know you've done the test and stuff like that, but like you say, for the sake of it, you know, you might as well do it. And to be honest, it's probably the least problematic that the floor tiles have got it.
Exactly.
Hopefully you can just level over it and then just not worry about it.
Hopefully there's just a small amount of tiles maybe, and it's been something removed in the past, but I don't know, because I haven't had all the carpet up yet.
No.
But I'll keep you updated on that, because that is annoying, because my £100 budget, if I have to deal with, if it was in the ceiling and the floor, I think I'd be in for like £5,000 probably.
Yeah.
To remove it. So 5% of the budget would be gone. So I've got to think of ways that I'll do it safely and move forward. But
this is where it's hard with budgets, right? Because you're like, I've carefully planned out everything, and then there's always that spanner in the works, isn't there?
Exactly. It's so annoying. And asbestos is such an obvious statement I'm about to say. If you just don't mess with it, it's so bad for you. If you don't touch it, it's not harmful whatsoever. I mean, my gran lived to 99 in that house, and she was there for 30 years. which is mad because she had it like below her feet the whole time. Obviously, didn't touch it, didn't do anything to do with it. So it's one of those things that's fine. But yeah, so more positive news is the structural thing I said I was going to try.
Oh,
which
yes.
people that didn't hear the last episode. I didn't use a structural engineer per se through a company because I got rough guides online of like £800 plus.
Yeah.
So I was looking at cheaper ways, and I did it online through this company. I'll get some links and stuff to put on like Instagram, things like that.
Nice.
And it cost me £400. It was with a little discount. It's one of those things, you know, you go on there like save 10% if you sign up to this. It's like awesome as I did that. And it came back within 7 days, and it literally looks. I've seen so many surveys and stuff over the years. It looks awesome. It's like got all the right things in the right places, and like precautions, like we've assumed the floor joists run this way, so please check this and things like that. And there's no seals whatsoever.
Wow!
So we're removing 2 internal walls. Basically, the kitchen has 4 walls.
Yeah,
2 of those walls are coming out. Actually, sorry, 3 walls are eventually coming out to go into extension, but for now, 2 walls are coming out. One of them's structural, one of them's not. And actually, I'm amazed that no steel's going in. But I checked with my builder, and he said, the length of timber, they've said the thickness of the timber going in makes sense that that's strong enough because the roof is, pitching onto this wall in the middle and stuff like that. So that is my first like big saving because the steels, I guessed at least 2, and I think steels are like £600 to £800 depending on the size. So I reckon I'm at least a couple of grand up from just being lucky with that.
Yeah.
But I really recommend the structural engineer service as well. So, and I've even got one change included in the price. So if I came back to them and said, we're going to move this wall here, or can I take down this? They'd do one more for free.
Amazing.
So that's some really good tips. I think this podcast has tips. Otherwise, what we do?
Why are we even here?
We just want to escape our family. So it's a really good tip. I think I've saved at least £500 by using this company. And it's a really, I think, try it. You can see how it goes, but for me, it's been great. And my builder has also double checked what he's put and said, actually, it's refreshing because most structural engineers these days go immensely over the top. He said, no, this looks like exactly what you need and no more and no less. So perfect. I'm happy about that. Not so happy about potentially killing myself.
No, that's But obviously, you applied to the council for planning permission. It was accepted.
Yeah.
So are you going down the council route? Because I know you can go council approvals or private approvals. Is that?
I'm going to go private approval. So obviously the council for planning permission, but you can go externally.
Yeah.
Like Dan just said, for structural stuff and building regulations and things like that. I'm going to go externally just because I've just had problems with the council before where you'll get different representatives come in and they say different things.
Yes.
I had one representative in my house say, you're fine to do the foundations to like, I think it was 60 centimetres in the back because we've got a single story extension.
Yeah.
Another guy came back once the foundations were dug and we were ready to pour and said it had to be 2.2, I think it was.
Wow.
Because there was a tree like 20 odd metres away or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, but the other guy said this. He's like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm now doing it.
Yeah.
And I've heard that with the other thing, you just get a representative and then he or she is the person.
Yeah.
So obviously if they left the company or whatever, it wouldn't be the case. But I've just had such issues with the councils like on jobs where they've said, even things like on this house, they signed off the driveway. And I was like, you signed off the driveway, the drainage hasn't been done yet. And they were like, because we just literally put the guttering into the floor until the drainage was done. And they were like, they didn't see it. And I was like, damn it. Why did I tell them that? So I just don't think they're like, I don't want to go slacking them off because I'll never get planning permission again in my life. But I don't feel like they're on site as much as these guys who have worked on the job before.
I think you pay a little bit more, right? But I feel like you get a better service for that. So although you're paying more money, you don't run into these, now you've got to change this and change that.
Exactly. And I think their fees are a lot more upfront. Like some people get stung with things like this that you pay a little bit up front with the council, then at the end you could get a little hidden whack.
Yeah.
When this is all up front, this is going to be your cost. So that's what I'm doing as well. So I reckon it won't be much more. I will compare the two.
Yeah.
Maybe 10% more. But it's one of those things. I think for peace of mind, it'll be better for me on this one.
Yeah, exactly. And they just seem a bit more personable, right?
Oh, you know what it is as well? It's the appointments.
Yeah.
So you try and phone the council, they basically don't pick up the phone. It's like they literally say we're busy, and you're like, it's that phone line that everyone does. It's like, can't just say you're busy every day. Like,
unexpected high volume of calls
it's like
every day.
I swear that's got to be changed.
Yeah.
And so you can't speak to them over the phone, literally, unless there's like a really specific window and you're lucky.
Yeah.
So you have to like email and do other things. Whereas this is like they've got an online thing. You literally say, when do you want to book it in? And they have to speak to another book it in. So it's just for peace of mind and not getting stressed after I'm going to go down this route. But I'll price up both and put it online.
Yeah, and then maybe you could share your experiences. Obviously, you've done some through the council and some private, and then you can kind of make a comparison.
Yeah,
there, right?
And hopefully the house doesn't fall down because of bad structural work and bad fights for the whole thing. Might get good podcast views though.
Yeah.
YouTube and whatever. I've seen
the bungalow that fell down. Yeah,
that probably would get good views, but not willing to sacrifice it.
Quite expensive to get like 10 more views on Instagram.
Exactly. But yeah, should we go to Jaya now?
Yeah, let's jump in with Jaya.
Morning, everyone. We have Jaya here from Tokyo Llama, and one of our more interesting, don't put the pressure on you here, Jaya, but I think this is one of the more interesting people I follow on YouTube, because you are currently living in Japan. I wouldn't mind hearing about how this all started for you.
Well, actually, so we were living I'm Australian, but we were living in England. So we're living in London. And so my wife is originally from Japan, and we were at a point where we have two twin boys who were aged 6 at the time when we left the UK. We're at a point where we had to decide whether we keep staying in the UK, and we really enjoyed it there. We both of us enjoyed living there, or leave and move somewhere closer to our respective families. So my parents down in Melbourne in Australia, and my wife in Japan. So we decided to move to Japan just because we thought getting a house would be a lot cheaper. Which as you might have seen in the YouTube videos, cheaper than a house in Melbourne, and so basically that's it. We moved to Japan in about 2017, and we first stayed with my mother-in-law at her house, and then we sort of started looking for a bigger place of our own, and that's when we kind of it's when I started really looking at what they call Akia, which is really just a vacant house. And, it's pretty well known these days that, Japan, with a declining, birth rate and depopulation of rural areas, there are a lot of vacant houses around. So we basically then found this house, which is a traditional Japanese house, with the big roof and made of wood. After a bit of a complicated process, ended up buying the place for about 3 million yen. I'm not sure what that is in pounds. 20,000.
It's really $7,000, didn't you?
$7,000 at the time.
Probably around, it's really 21, 22 maybe max. Yeah, it's amazing. It's going to be loads of people from the UK going, right, I'm moving to Japan.
Well, I have to say, it's not really apples and oranges because, when we're comparing, say, a London, house to a house in the country in Japan, a house in the country anywhere, it's going to be a bit cheaper. So there is that. But we're only on the outskirts of Tokyo, not, an hour or less than an hour, 45 minutes on the train into central Tokyo. So it's not not that bad.
Amazing. I love it. And I love the traditional Japanese house. It just looks incredible, doesn't it? So are you wanting to keep it like quite traditional looking, or have you like kind of added a sort of Australian UK twist to it?
I wouldn't say I've added an Australian or UK twist, I don't think, but I've tried to keep a balance, so I think renovating an old house anywhere, you sort of want to keep some of the characteristics of that house, of that period, but at the same time, you want to modernize it a bit, at least make it a little more comfortable to live in. because a traditional Japanese house, they're cold in the winter, they're drafty, they don't have much insulation, and in the summer they can get pretty hot too. So we had to first thing first, we needed to sort of fix the insulation issue and do all of that, and then we sort of wanted to make it a bit of our own and put in some of the more modern facilities, like a nicer bath, a nicer kitchen, things like that. So yeah, we tried to get a balance between the old and the new, and keep and maintain its original characteristic.
Yeah, what's amazing when I was watching your YouTube, I mean, I've been following you for years actually, but just researching, couldn't believe it was built in 1987, was it? So it just seems like they obviously just build it to look traditional, I guess, unless they're all just like that. Are there any sort of more modern properties where you are as well? But
yeah, so around us, Japan doesn't really have very strict or any, codes building codes in terms of preserving the look of, the location. So, I guess like, in the Cotswolds, you can't just build anything you want and stick it next to one of the old stone houses. Here in Japan, they don't have anything like that. So most Japanese, what they do, they knock down some of these old houses, and then they put up a new, more modern, better insulated, more convenient sort of house, which I can understand. But at the same time, it's a bit sad because you sort of lose that traditional, I guess, what is traditional view of the countryside. So, I don't know, have you been to Japan?
No, it's a real bucket list, but I'm a bit scared because I've got a 4-year-old of actually doing it. But yeah, it's a long way to come. It's definitely on the bucket list. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get into the rural part of Japan, you see lots of houses like mine, and that's kind of I guess it's part of the landscape of the country in Japan, but that's slowly disappearing as these houses disappear. There's still lots and lots of them, but slowly they sort of deteriorate, or they become abandoned or vacant, and someone else buys them, or the children inherit them and then knock them down and build a newer house rather than renovate the existing house. Because I think cost-wise, if you want to do it, to a certain standard where the house becomes a lot more comfortable and you have those modern elements to it, the cost is kind of more or less the same. New houses are pretty cheap here in Japan. So, yeah, you do have that sort of factor there.
I'm surprised they would knock it down, but just looking at your background now, like all the wood is just incredible, isn't it? Are they all like original features and beams?
Yeah, they are. So we kept all of the original structure, all of the main beams and I guess the pillars or posts, whatever you call them. But I think actually now I'll just go back to your original question. I remember what it was. But the houses like this were built up probably until the mid 90s, but they gradually were going out of favor because they are a bit more expensive to build, and they require, this house was built using the traditional method mostly. So the carpenter who built the house was, what do you call him? Miyadaiku. And that's a temple builder. So his style of building is same as how Japanese temples are built. So he built it in that style. And though the one of the main differences was that because the house was built after 1980, and in 1980 they changed a lot of the regulations in Japan to be more, I guess, stable against earthquakes, which are a big issue here. So it does have a few, which is good for us because it does have a few more elements, wooden and some metal cross bracing and corners and things like that. So that was probably the only real difference in terms of the structure of the house and the construction method. It was still mostly, log beams stacked on top of each other, and a lot of the joinery is just wood and, just, cutting and fitting all different shapes of wood and beams and posts to sort of like lock in together like a kind of Jenga. You shouldn't say that in an earthquake area. It's a bit more fun. Yeah. So it is one of the last houses built in this sort of style, and I did speak to the original builder who lives just down the road, and he said the last one he built in this style was about 1993 or 1995.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And I noticed you said you bought it at auction, and unlike, I think even auction properties in the UK these days are usually still sort of mostly vacant possession, but yours was just filled with things. It didn't look like, well, you might say differently, but it didn't look like complete chaos or like in a bad way, but just a large quantity of just things. How did you sort of get your head around thinking, oh God, I've got to like clear all this? And surely there must have been some good finds in there as well, hopefully.
Yeah, there were. Yeah. Well, first of all, I hadn't really thought that deeply about it. I'll just want to the place, and then I was going to just cross that bridge when I came to it, and I hadn't really, taken any time to think about how much work it would be or the cost involved on clearing the place, not just of the main house, but also the sheds, which were full of, agricultural farming equipment and tools. So the only really, well, the worst room was the kitchen. It still had, dishes in the sink. There was an egg in the fridge. There were like, instant ramen cups that were still sitting there with, the oil and the leftover ramen in the bottom and things like that.
No.
Yeah, and then the rest of the rooms, were more just personal items. But the sheds were really a lot more, a lot worse than we had imagined, because they'd obviously had people dumping stuff in there. There were like old TVs, all the cathode ray TVs and things like that, washing machines. Lots of stuff like that. And that took a lot of work to get rid of, because you can't just throw that away. You have to, take it to special sites to get rid of that stuff and pay a bit of money too.
Oh, was there anything like in particular you found you're like, this is amazing?
Yeah, nothing. Well, we did find a bit of money. that 70,000 yen. So what's that? 400 quid or something.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
not a small amount. It was and a few photos of the house when it was being built. Some carvings and things like that, but no, nothing exciting like an old samurai sword or something.
That's really what it's like.
Yeah. Most of the stuff we just had to get rid of. There was nothing particularly worth keeping. I did find a few things, like I've got an old, one of my early videos, I found a wooden statue, a Buddhist statue, and that's still sitting there. I haven't put it anywhere in the house, but I held on to that, and a few flower pots and vases and things like that. So
cool.
Nothing particularly exciting.
Yeah, I mean, £400 isn't bad. You sort of want to, exactly. Yeah. Have you had any experience in the UK renovating? The only reason I ask is I just think, like, you sort of know, well, I personally know the UK quite well for doing things, and going to Japan, there must be some things that you think, are so simple to organise in the UK, but are just not a thing in Japan, or it's worked slightly differently. I'd just like to know if there's anything that springs to mind.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. I hadn't really renovated anything in my life before. So in the UK, we were renting the whole time there. So we never knew how long we were going to be staying for. And, we ended up staying 10 years, though. So we probably should have bought. what a bad advice in the first couple of years. If you're not going to stay more than 5 years, you should just rent. But if we'd bought something early on, I think by the time we left, we would have been, with the way that the property prices has increased in the UK or in London, by the time we left, we would have been, I think, pretty happy with it. But anyway, so no, we were renting, so we didn't do any sort of renovating or anything like that. And so nothing so much. I don't think it's so different, perhaps, if I sort of try and imagine. You got the home centers in Japan, so I guess it's similar to B&Q. And probably a better selection of lumber, maybe, from what I recall. Although, having said that, I didn't exactly look that closely at B&Q. But so it's everything's here to, the materials are pretty close at hand and pretty easy to get a hold of to renovate yourself, and pretty cheap. I think that could be a difference. It's a lot of the, especially the local lumber, like the cedars and the sugi, which is cedar, and the hinoki, which is cypress. They're pretty cheap.
Wow, that's a real contrast, because cedar wood is so expensive over here. Yeah.
So I mean, there's so much of it here, and it's sort of like one of the only cheap woods that they use quite commonly. So it's pretty easy to get a hold of.
Nice. And is everything sort of built from like local materials then? Is that how they kind of work in Japan?
Yeah, not all the time, because actually my house has some imported woods. So a lot of the big beams in our house is actually Douglas fir.
Oh, wow.
I think at the time, because the house stuff they started building in 1987, completed in 1989. At that time, it was the bubble. Japan had this as part of the. Japan was sort of undergoing this sort of bubble, which burst in, I think, late 90s, if I remember correctly. But anyway, I think at that time, the yen was really strong. And so that's where Japan got a reputation of being expensive. And so I think a lot of these woods from the US, like the Douglas fir, were relatively cheap to import. So, our house does have some of the upper beams are Douglas fir, but the rest of the house is mostly hinoki, the cypress, cedar, and keaki, which is Japanese zelkova, which is a really hard wood, which the internal beams and posts are made of in this house.
Oh, wow. So is this something you've obviously just learned since you bought the house? Did you sort of go into it with just not knowing nothing, and because you're saying this to us and we're like, wow, we have no clue. Is this where you started from?
So I sound like an expert, but I had I had no idea when I first got the house. Like, I didn't know anything about any of the Japanese woods and what the house is made of. So it was all part of the process of renovating. I used to ask the carpenters who did the initial work on the house, what these woods were and so on. So I was quite interested and curious about it. And also I knew down the track I'd probably start doing work on it myself at some point.
So what made you choose a renovation then over getting like a completed property?
Well, I think one of the things was the price. So, there are a few factors. So one is the price. So initially what we were looking for was a large property. So I wasn't even really thinking that much about renovating or getting an old traditional Japanese house or anything like that. I just wanted a decent sized property to have a big garden. And, I grew up in Australia at a time when everyone had big backyards and everything and things like that. And, I wanted to sort of do the same for our boys. And I like gardening and so on. So that was the first thing. And then it became an issue of where you just don't see blocks like that in Japan that commonly, unless it's kind of a farmhouse or a farm. So that's what led me to looking for a farm. And then obviously most of the properties on farms are going to be the old traditional houses or maybe a more modern house. But a lot of the houses that were built in Japan after the war, in the 70s or 80s and 90s, not that great quality. So you still didn't, even though they were more modern than the traditional houses, they were still really leaky, didn't have great insulation. They were freezing. Like my mother-in-law's house, the house that we stayed in when we first moved to Japan, that was freezing, that house. It was built in the early 90s. It's
crazy, isn't there? There's nothing, no insulation at all. It's mad.
There's insulation. So, the Japanese have come, which makes sense, back, when the houses came from, these traditional wooden houses, and the technology back, so when, houses like mine can be 100, 150 years old. So before air conditioning and, before, more modern heating methods. So you would have a drafty house because, the Japanese summer is hot and humid. And so you can't air condition the house. If you don't want mold in your house, and if you want it to be a bit cooler, you want air to be able to travel through the whole house and through the walls and everything. So the houses came from that kind of background. And I guess they sort of, coming from there, and then making the houses airtight or, having insulation just wasn't a huge priority for them until recently. I think nowadays new houses that are built are pretty good. Some of them are very good now in terms of insulation.
Yeah, because you always assume Japan's like high tech, or we do. I certainly do about thinking about it. Like, so just for you to have no insulation in a freezing house as late as like the 90s seems just bizarre to me. But it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of insulation, but it's more like just token insulation. Yeah, the cold air just goes around the insulation, through the the gaps.
Once you cleared the house, did you have like a first room you were like, right, I'm going to tackle this, like the kitchen or the bathroom? And was it something you wanted to do yourself, or did you get some help in, or?
Yeah, so we did have two carpenters, a father and son team, who did the initial renovation. So that's my family, my mother-in-law and her friends cleared the house of all of the rubbish and all the stuff in there. And once that was done, while we were doing that, we had been getting quotes and also designs, renovation designs and ideas from architects and renovation companies that specialized in doing traditional houses. And so, yeah, we ended up going for an architect who was a friend of my mother-in-law, and then hired a separate carpenter, the father and son team, who then, did the renovation according to the design by the architect. So that was the initial stage, and that took about 12 months or so. So that was everything. So that was the kitchen area, bathroom, most the living room, bedrooms, taking out some of the walls and putting in walls. A lot of the bedrooms are quite small, so we wanted to make at least the main bedroom, our bedroom, a bit bigger, and also the bathroom was a kind of a separate building, and we wanted to make that a little bit more unified with the main house. So things like that. So there was nothing the first year was just everything pretty much getting renovated. And then after 12 months, basically the structural work was complete. So all the new floors and the walls and everything, and the bathroom and the kitchen were finished. And so we moved in. The bedrooms weren't done at that stage. There was still just, plasterboard. What do you call it? Drywall in the because I
plasterboard, yeah.
because I would learn a lot of the stuff from watching YouTube, and a lot of the YouTube channels are from the US.
Yeah.
So a lot of the American terminology. So I was keeping drywall. I'm pretty sure in Australia it's called plasterboard. So
Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of the plasterboard wasn't even finished; it was just bare plasterboard throughout the house. And I'd told the carpenters that I would finish the walls myself. At this stage, once the main stuff was done, we wanted to save as much money as possible. And I was also, at that point, interested in doing the work myself as well.
Yeah.
So, we moved in with pretty much bare walls, plasterboard walls. Yeah, no walls had been finished, no bedrooms. This is our bedroom, the main bedroom. And so none of this had been plastered, and the ceiling hadn't been stained or anything like that. And so, yeah, we moved in and just slept on, mattresses, futon in the living area. And then they gradually, completed the bedrooms and everything until, I think that bedroom process took more than a year to get finished as well.
I can imagine, yeah. Fair play to you for turning your hand to doing plastering as well. I wouldn't have the guts to do that, I don't think.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where they use this plaster here. So why not? This room is probably the only room that doesn't have this lime plaster called shikui. I think in the UK, lime plaster was quite common at one point. And
yeah, we were speaking to someone actually who was based in the Cotswold. It's sort of more popular in sort of rural places and like cottages and things. It's used because it's actually quite good for breathing as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's not. It's definitely not used in houses like Dan and mine, but yeah, in the cottages and in the country, it's used quite a lot.
Yeah, because it's alkaline, I think, and resistant. It also absorbs moisture and sort of releases it. So it's great in Japan where you have a humid climate. It's really good for there. So I wanted to do that. And, try and also because it's a traditional material it's not used that much in Japan anymore either. So it was a traditional material. I wanted to use that, but because it's not used that much in Japan anymore, there aren't many tradies who can actually apply it. So it's becoming more and more expensive. So I thought, I want to do it. I'm going to have to do it myself. Otherwise, we just won't have the budget for it. So,
Cool.
Yeah, so sort of through necessity partly as well.
That's what things like YouTube are for, right? You just like pick up YouTube, hope to find someone that's done it. But obviously, you now post on YouTube, and it looks hugely successful, over like 250,000 subscribers. Just insane to me. Was that something you always thought you were going to do because you thought, oh, this is quite interesting, or you just thought, see how it goes? Because I think your first video, is it 8 million views or something like that? It's crazy.
It's not 8 million. I think my first, maybe 3 or 4. I can't remember. I haven't checked.
Nothing, man. No.
So, it was a bit of that. So I once we decided to get the traditional house, then I thought actually, because I enjoyed watching renovation shows. And what is it in the UK? Gran Designs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to used to watch that from time to time, and I hadn't really. And when I was looking on YouTube to research the renovation, I found there wasn't really that much in English, in particular, even in Japanese. So I thought, this, and there were lots of renovations of, how villas in Spain or houses in Provence and things like that.
Yeah.
And things. So I thought, and they were getting like millions of views, and I was thinking, it could be interesting. But at the same time, even if no one watches it, I thought, it's a good way of documenting the process that you can look at.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll just film it and see how it goes. So I didn't really expect this many subscribers. I thought if I can get to 1,000 subscribers, that'd be nice. That'd be fun. And I think it's sort of, with that first video, we just went, after about 6 months, not immediately, about 6 months, and after I'd made a couple of more videos, it kind of went viral. And I think it was during COVID as well. So a lot of people were at home watching YouTube. So I was a bit lucky too.
Amazing. So was there a particular video that you saw that you made and then it just sort of blew up, or was it just sort of a slow progression over time?
Yeah. So it was a slow progression for about 6 months from the first video where I just did a sort of walk around of the house as it was when we found it. And yeah, I think by about 6 months, I got to about 1,000 subscribers, which I was really,
Yeah, quick reset. Yeah.
yeah. And then I don't know if it was a coincidence because perhaps it wasn't. I don't know, how YouTube and the algorithm works, but I think just after I hit 1,000, one of those original the first video that I uploaded, the walk around of the house, took off. And I'd also made about a month earlier a video on the whole process of buying the house and how I found it and everything. And that one also sort of took off. So I had those two videos take off kind of simultaneously. And then, just the subscribers snowballed. And then it was kind of good timing because it was right at the beginning of the renovation. So most of the videos I'd done prior to that were on cleaning and clearing up the property and the house and the sheds and everything like that. So a lot of those new subscribers who came on from that first video, after it went viral, were there to see the subsequent series on the renovation itself. So it was, just, I think, fortuitous timing.
Yeah. And how actually did you find the house and even do viewing? Was your mother-in-law living there at the time could help you? Like, it seems like it's a Japanese right move. We're so naive to how this process happens.
Yeah. So after I decided I wanted to find a farmhouse and a farm, a property that was a farm, I was looking around and it's very, very few of these sort of properties are listed anywhere. They tend to be kept in the family. And then, for example, our next door neighbor, they've got 3 generations living there. So they have the original old house, and then on the same property, they just build a new house for the in this case, the daughter and her husband's family. So they don't necessarily hit the market. So I put out a word to, my mother-in-law's friends, and just around here, it's not a particularly large town where we are, that I was looking for a place. And then one of them found this place being auctioned off. It was advertised in the local newspaper, which obviously I never really read it. Yeah. It's like, oh, look, there's a place here that, might be of interest to you. And I looked at it and go, this is definitely. And it was a public auction by the tax office. And so we contacted them and asked them about it. And they said, okay, yeah, this is the place. And they then said, no, can we look at it? And they said, no.
Yeah.
Because I think this is most of these public auction places are being auctioned in this way. You pretty much buy them off the listing. You don't really inspect them, and that's kind of the deal. But then they tell us, but this is the address. You're allowed to get the address. And kind of they sort of hinted, well, if you go and look at it, and you're not allowed to go. We don't have keys, but it's up to you. So we went down, and it was a complete jungle around it. We couldn't even get into the property. It was just all bamboo everywhere. And then so we eventually found a little side route in around the back, and then we got to the house, and was just appeared out of all of this the weeds and the overgrown trees and bamboo and everything. And then we walked around. We found an open window, and got in that way. And, it's still a lot of money if you're going to buy.
Yeah, exactly.
£20,000 is still £20,000.
Yeah.
Although having said that, our plan B was always, if the house is in a really bad state and it's beyond salvage, we would knock it down and build a new house. We'd have the land, obviously the large land, still part of what I was looking for. So it wasn't complete, it wasn't complete risk, or a huge risk. So, but anyway, we had to look around, and we brought a friend who was an architect, not the same architect who did the design for the renovation, but another architect friend who came in and inspected it with us and said, yeah, it's pretty much fine. Structurally, it's fine. So
Was that through the window as well?
it could obviously unlock the doors from yeah, because this architect is in his 70s, so he's not climbing through window. So then that's how we found it. Then it was an auction, but it was not an auction like you get in, I guess, the UK and Australia, where you sort of have a group of people and you take it in turns bidding. So this was a blind auction. So you go to the this is the tax office auctioning it, and you have a 1 hour window, and they're auctioning off multiple properties at the same time. So what you do is you go and register, you fill out a form, and you write down the figure that you're willing to bid. There's a minimum, and the minimum was pretty much 3 million yen. And you write down your figure and you hand it in, and at the end of the 1 hour, and they announce who submitted the largest bid. But the only issue is, because they're auctioning off lots of properties all at the same time, you don't know who is bidding on your property. So you don't know if you're bidding against someone else or you're the only bidder on the house. So you've got to, keep that in mind.
Oh, that's a terrifying way of doing it. It's still a number. Say it's 3 million yen and that's all you've got. I mean, that's kind of easy. But if you've got a little bit more, you're like, oh, just bid a bit more. It's so hard, isn't it?
That's exactly what happened. So I kept on, in my head, bidding against myself. Like, want to go too high. I go, okay, 3 million yen. Of course, you don't want to put 3 million yen. Because if there is someone else, they might put 3,010,000 yen. So you've got to do more than that. So, okay, we'll put down 3,020,000. Yeah, but what happens if the other person's thinking that too? So you start like 3,030,500. Like that, I can't remember.
I don't have to be too judgmental, but I mean, buying off the tax office doesn't seem, I think they would just tell you someone else is bidding, even if it's just you. Just get right.
Yeah. So I think in the end there was one other person who was bid, but they'd done the schoolboy error of 30,000 and 3,010,000 yen or something like that. We got the place.
That's amazing. Yeah, I would have done like 3,310 or something like that.
I actually didn't go in the room myself. My wife went in because, we're in a small town. I'm one of the only foreigners, and I kind of stand out. So I didn't want to give anything away that we were bidding, because someone else in the town might be bidding, because it's all through the prefecture, so it's not just our area. And so if there's only one property in our town that's going up for auction, then someone might go, oh, okay, so there is one other person, and they have that advantage. So I just sent my wife in, and then then at the end of the 1 hour, she said that they announced all of the winning bids. And hers was the only one that wasn't a round number. Everyone was like, different properties, 5 million yen, or 6 million, or 65 million were out. And when they had 3,030,311, she was like a bit embarrassed, like that's the only.
Oh well, you won it. Yeah, exactly.
That's all it was, yeah.
Maybe you set a trend, so in future everyone else is going to do the same thing.
The auctioneer put a furious about to read out the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
So how have you found your sort of DIY skills? Have they sort of grown as the years have gone on? Have you got a bit more like courageous trying new things?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they have improved, if I look back. But at the same time, I think there's been a balance. Still very far from a professional level in terms of skills and also time it takes to do something. I just take ages to do things. But I guess if I'm not really on the clock, so I do try and take a bit more time to get it right. I think that's one of the things. But in my last project though, well, the one that I'm doing at the moment, I'm making some shells and I'm trying new joints that I hadn't really tried before, and that's been quite fun. But I think so. I think I have been getting a bit better.
So I
still make lots of mistakes and go.
Because your dining room table you built looked amazing, and you were just basically slating it off. So.
Yeah, well, it does have its mistakes. I usually show them those mistakes I do make, but but a lot of that was quite fun in terms of a lot of the sort of techniques I used on that were just stuff I learned off YouTube, and so and then some of those techniques then I can sometimes use them later for other projects. So it has been pretty handy. Yeah, I have shown the capacity to learn a bit. As you get older, it gets a bit trickier.
Yes, true. Yeah. Well, that's it with DIY, isn't it? Everyone we've spoken to is kind of in the same boat. They just start by doing it, make mistakes along the way. And then when they do it again, it gets sort of better and better. It's just sort of a natural process, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess it's also if you're doing it yourself, you could live with a lot of the mistakes.
Yeah.
If you're hiring someone who made that same mistake, you'd be really annoyed. You paid money.
That's true.
You're doing a mistake and you just go, I could redo that. It's going to take me time and a bit of money to get them new materials, or I'll just live with it. And, and often for me, at least, that's what happens. I sometimes just go, it'll do. No one can see that.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. So thank you really much for joining us. We always end with sort of asking the same question. It could be slightly different for you, but it's sort of the best thing about sort of DIY and that you've had with your house, and then sort of your worst experience. But I guess for you, it could be sort of more Japan related as well. Like your best thing about moving to Japan and worst thing is completely up to you. But we usually sort of, as is the DIY podcast, say, what's the favorite thing you've done? And then what's something you've done where you're like, oh, I wish I did it differently, or next time I have to do it better.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing that I've done so far is probably a more recent project. It was this Japanese shrine, and it sounds dodgy when I explain. It's a Japanese, huge Japanese shrine up on the wall. Actually, it's the wood and the housing, or I guess what do you call it, an alcove that holds the shrine. And because we're not using the shrine, my wife didn't want to have the shrine. It's not that common these days to have the shrine because you've got to maintain it every day. You've got to feed it, pour in sake, and everything like that. And it's a Shinto shrine. So we decided not to have that. And then we didn't need the alcove. So I had the alcove taken down early on in the renovation by the carpenters, and it's made out of a really heavy, thick keyaki, the Japanese alcova. And I converted that finally into a sort of side table. And that took a lot of work, but I was really happy with how it turned out in the end. So
amazing. Great.
Yeah. So it turned out better than expected. Usually with the DIY, a lot of them are like, oh yeah, that's all right. But when they even that better than you expect, and you go, oh, okay, that's good. That's satisfying.
Everything's like a work of art anyway.
I'm proud of that one. I do go, oh yeah. So, when you've done it yourself and you are proud of it, I'm not going to lie. I walk into the house and go, yeah, that looks good. I've done it. Well, what's for buzzing it? And she goes, yeah, you are. I like it. Still looks good, like you asked me a week ago. But yeah.
Okay, then, so that's the good one. So what's the bad one? Is it like there's a wall that's not there anymore? It's supposed to be there, or something?
Well, the wall is still there. There's still some. There's still some gas cupboards. I've still got walls that I haven't blasted yet. Well, one main wall. I think. Well, perhaps it's hard to say. Yeah, maybe the current project, I've been a bit sloppy, and I've had a few jigs that haven't been very well made. And if you look closely, there are lots and lots of mistakes. And I'm trying to make a shelf against a wall that's not square or not flat.
Wow.
It's been an absolute nightmare, really, trying to get everything to fit nicely. I just gave up basically on trying to get it perfect, and now just want to get it done. And move on to something. Yeah, it's just dragged on. I just want to get it, just start a new project. I just want to get this.
Yeah. Well, amazing, Jay. Thanks for joining us so much. Could you tell the listeners where to find you and what platforms you're on? I always say to people about viewing people, but your one, honestly, is one of the first YouTube accounts I followed. Super, super interesting. So where can we find you guys?
Yeah, so it's basically YouTube only. Tokyo Llama. That's Tokyo as in the city, and Llama as in the animal. LLAMA. So yeah, YouTube. Just search for Tokyo Llama. I do have Instagram, but I don't update that as often as I should. But it's Instagram Tokyo Llama as well. Basically, I don't do any other social media outside of that.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to following the rest of your journey. And we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Been a good chat. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much, JR. Such a great chat, and it was so interesting talking to you about your Japanese house and how different everything is. Like, you would think a home renovation would be quite similar, but it just seems like everything's quite different over there. And everything, I don't know, it seems a bit cooler, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. He was a really good guest. I don't want to slack off other guests.
Yeah.
But it's just like a bolder thing that he's done. And,
Yeah.
I know he's got ties to Japan, obviously, through his wife's side of the family, but it's just a risky and sort of like ballsy thing to do, isn't it? I'd be like too scared to do it.
And he's literally the most chilled out guy ever.
Yeah, I know.
So calm, and he's like, yeah, this went wrong, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and it's just interesting hearing about everything, isn't it? Not just the house, but like social media. The fact he's got 250,000 followers on YouTube. Doesn't really post much on Instagram and stuff, but it's just insane. I really recommend you guys following him. Tokyo Llama, I know we said it at the end, but it's such a cool thing to go and see. So what was your favourite bit, do you think?
I mean, favourite bit has to be getting a house for 20k. Like, where you couldn't even get a garage in the UK for 20k.
So my mate just sold his Volkswagen Golf for like 24 grand. So he got a house.
Yeah.
That's absolutely mental.
And also, like, the sort of the history that went with it as well. And, it's not like he was buying a really small, cheap house. Like, this was like something that was really well built. And it's crazy. It was only built in the 80s as well.
I know. Actually, that was probably one of my favourite things, is that it's an 80s build, and I think our 80s and 90s builds, all the houses historically were beautiful.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're building them worse to a degree. Like, even my house we're in now is like a rendered front, which I don't even like, but I'd had no choice. It's like he just had all these nice beams, didn't he, in like woodwork with the cedar wood, was it, inside?
Yes. Yeah.
It just looked so like beautiful. And as you say, 20 grand, what a joke.
Yeah.
So annoyed.
And even like on the video, you're like, I was having a little nose in the background. You're like, oh, it just looks incredible, doesn't it?
I know, yeah. And he sent like the alcove video he did on YouTube and stuff. It's just everything got so much detail in it as well.
Yeah.
Which again, I think what we struggled with our house, where we extended so much, you like end up with these boxes with not much like details. Because his house is full of like touches and details and lots of like exposed beams and wood, and so lovely.
Just looked amazing.
And what a nice guy as well.
Yeah, top bloke.
And he clearly doesn't mind travelling around.
No.
Australia, UK, Japan.
Yeah. Wow, just amazing, isn't it? So what about you? What was your favourite part?
It's tricky because there's so many things. I mean, the price, obviously, like you said, is awesome. I really liked that he used like a local builder. I know that we said on the previous episode, we were talking about my grand's place that, look down the road and speak to people that have done the extension and maybe see if that builder was good.
Yeah.
So quite a good tip. But he actually found the builder who built all the houses around there, built a lot of the houses around there. And I thought that was awesome. That's a really good idea. And it's like they just would have so much knowledge of what's been used everywhere and what maybe in the 30 or 40 years that's moved on, what could be put in now. Because I imagine it didn't have like insulation everywhere and things like that. So I think that was really like just a cool little tip for people as well.
Yeah, and definitely. And the guy's got like experience doing similar projects, so he can also advise you on, I know you're thinking about putting a bathroom here, but I put it here in another property and it works really well. So you've got that sort of experience to it as well.
Exactly. Yeah, awesome. So now I'm really excited. And next episode, we're back onto my grand's bungalow. So just be Dan and I talking. And then we're just going to keep going guests in and out as well. We've got some really exciting guests coming up as well. We don't know which one to pivot to first because we're going to be speaking to lots of exciting people.
Definitely.
But if you guys have got any questions for us, please get in touch. I've totally forgot my piece of paper here. So hello@DIYguyspodcast.com is our email address. And our Instagram is just DIY Guys Podcasts. Or DIY_Guys_podcast. But does that make me an old man saying it like that? Just type in DIY Guys Podcast on Instagram.
You'll find us, surely.
So we'll be posting like the guest clips and then other clips from like my grand's place, and maybe we would try and get into giving advice, although I'm a bit scared to give advice. We're not claiming to be experts. But I'm excited, and we'll talk to you next week about a bit more about my grand's house, where I'll be tackling the kitchen, the bathroom.
Sounds good. Cheers. Catch you next week.
See ya.